So, thank you for joining me, Sherry, all the way from North Carolina.
Thank you for having me.
So, uh, this is a great pleasure to be able to talk with the person behind this music that we're practicing, and I'm really excited. So,
I'm really excited too. It was so much fun to write, and it's not normal that I get to write something so cool. So,
ooh, okay. I definitely want to ask about that. But before we dive into talking about the piece, can you tell me a little bit about your background? Now, have you always been a musician? How did you um, get to be so involved with music and composing?
yeah, so it all started when I was like 3 years old, and I was obsessed with my record player, which dates me, I know, but um, yeah, I always have loved music, and my dad would play guitar and sing, and I would always join in as a young child. And then for Christmas, when I was 12, I begged and begged and begged for a piano. So I started taking piano lessons too and got a piano when I was 12. And then from there, it was just like voice lessons and singing and choir. I majored in music, and I was a music ed major with a voice principal and always admired composers and wished I could be one. I even commissioned other composers to write for my choirs. And then I don't know why, but when I was 45, I just decided to be brave and try composing. And I had a gig conducting an all county choir. And I was looking for a certain piece. Like I wanted something minor and kind of heavy and serious for kids. And it's actually hard to find that. So, after an exhaustive search, I just decided to try to write it myself. And I reached out to the chairperson and said, "Hey, I want to just write a piece and I won't charge extra." And she didn't know I didn't know what I was doing. So she's like, "Okay." So that was actually my first piece that I wrote. And I sent it to a dear mentor of mine who was a college professor, but also happened to be an editor for Henshaw. So I knew she was familiar with like looking at work and making sure it was not terrible. And so I sent it to her and I said, "Will you make sure this is just not terrible?" And she goes, "Actually, well, I would love it to be in my series with Henshaw." And I was like, "No, you're hilarious. Is it terrible?" And so that was actually my first published piece called "If You Heard My Voice." And it was premiered way back in, I think, 2015. So this marks year 10 for me being an actual composer. And I think it took me like 5 years to admit that I was an actual composer. So I don't have a background in composing, but I do study composing with Dr. Rafael Fusco, who's in Austria, and he's an Italian American who is amazing. So now I'm studying like heavy duty counterpoint like Bach did and making sure that I have my chops as well as inspiration for what I write.
Wow. It's always I do not have a background in music theory. I'm just learning as I go singing, and it's always amazed me how mathematical music is.
Yeah.
And as someone who's not particularly comfortable with math, that can feel a little scary, but also a little exhilarating when you nail it. So,
Right, right. And it's funny because when I was in college, as an undergrad, my theory professor gave us an assignment to write a song. And it didn't have to be fancy, it was just a song. And I struggled so much that I went to him for help. And I realize now the reason that I struggled is because I was using my left theory brain instead of my right brain. And so I'm a right brain composer. I'm all about inspiration. And because I write my lyrics often fuel like the inspiration for the music. So, yeah, looking back, I was so lost trying to compose, but that was why. It was because I tried to do it like as a theoretical exercise rather than just like I'm inspired and just like writing with my heart, which is
wow.
what I try to do now.
So tell me a little bit about how you got connected with the with our choir, the SoCo Women's Chorus in Austin, and the Bluebonnet Fund for New Music.
I think it's just because I'm lucky. So they just found me, and I honestly have had so many beautiful people that I've gotten to get to know and have the privilege of writing for that just reached out to me because they found my work either like on Henshaw or, Briley or Graphite or one of those other composers. I believe it may have been Graphite in this case, though, because I believe your director, Lisa,
Mhm.
is friends possibly or just knows of Jocelyn Hagen. And Jocelyn Hagen has a series called Compose Like a Girl with Graphite Music, and it's all about elevating women composers. And so I'm published with that. And so possibly that's maybe why she reached out. But I'm just so honored to be doing it. And I really have no idea how she found me. I should have asked her, like, how did you find me?
Part of the goal for this fund and for these commissions is to really elevate not just female composers, but folks who are part of the LGBT community. Can you
Yeah,
talk a little bit about you know, the commission having that as an explicit goal and maybe how that process is or it factors into your process a little bit. And that can dovetail into us talking too about just how the piece came into fruition and what went into the process of writing and composing it.
right. So, as an out gay woman, it's always such an honor to represent our community, right? Um, and I don't know that I'm the best representative. Like honestly, I try to be, but I feel like it is a challenging environment right now, particularly for our trans brothers and sisters. Um, and I want to make sure that I say what needs to be said in a way that's artistic, but also that lets people know we are here and we're not going to be quiet. And so I struggled actually with the title of the piece because there were so many like little snippets that I was like, oh, it could be that, it could be that, it could be that. And then I thought, you know what? We're here. And it's funny because we used to say, we're here, we're queer, we're not being quiet. So now it's just, we are here is the name of the piece. And I think it's just to signify that we exist and we're not being political by existing. We exist and we want to make our voices heard and let people know that if we're trying to be silenced, like we're not going to be quiet. And I try to do that always just in a positive way that also affirms others at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love that it begins with this kind of statement of just um, how traumatic certain things are right now and like a plea for mercy.
Right.
But it ends with this like strong
Yeah.
stance of, not, yeah, I just love the balance of that. It's,
You.
it
Thank
really is
you.
like empowering. It's like we're acknowledging this and we're going to fight. We're going to fight it.
Thank you for saying that. Like the build, I didn't intend on that, but the more I wrote, the more excited I got. And the more I was like, no, this needs to be like powerful by the end. So the beginning is, I'm tired. I'm just like, honestly, I think we feel like we can all connect to the sentiment. Like, I'm tired of seeing the news be depressing. Like, I'm just, so the words are, I'm tired of yearning for justice in a world gone mad. And I think we can all, at least women in particular, can connect to that sentiment that it shouldn't be this difficult to exist, you know? Um, yeah. So thank you for saying that.
Well, and to your point of we are here, I think a lot of what's happening right now is this attempt to erase identities and personhood and even statehood in some cases. And just that simple, no, we're here. You cannot erase us is so powerful.
There's something about stomping like when you're frustrated, but also just like to get out that angst you're feeling. But in my case, I used it for that, but as well as body percussion. So it's like this, the piece starts a cappella, like just voices, like just coming out of nowhere, like I'm tired. And it's in a minor key, which is, just heavy and mournful. But then all of a sudden to have like this djembe, which is a drum, like ba-dum, and these stomps to come out of nowhere. It's a little jarring, and it's jarring on purpose because I want the audience to be like, whoa, like, where are we going with this? Like, this is intense and, how to put it? It's a protest song, but it doesn't sound like your protest songs of like the 60s. It's a little like in your face. Try to distribute the melody also. And I once had a guy say, you are the Oprah of melodies. Like, you get a melody, you get a melody, you get a melody. And not
That's
only did
awesome.
that, it cracked me up, but also I was like, yes, I do try to do that because I feel like when I was in school, I was a soprano. And, like throughout, like from elementary, high school, college, I always sang in choir. And I distinctly remember feeling sorry for the altos and the tenors and the basses. Like, wow, I always get the melody. It seems unfair because melodies are just like, the foundation of every piece, really. So I try to be the Oprah of melodies.
What was the time frame over which you were writing this? Was this all happening in 2025 or did you get started in 24? And the reason I'm asking that is I'm curious too, like not like everything was perfect pre-January
Right.
25.
It changed though, didn't it?
But yes, it does seem like the national atmosphere has
Yeah.
changed quite a bit. I'm wondering how much that informed what you were writing.
It's interesting because I haven't really talked to any member of the choir or the director about the process of deciding what the content would end up as. And so when I first was brainstorming this, I was going to make it a partner song or a counter melody with an existing folk song. And it's because I know your concert is about Americana and folk songs. And I was like, I love a good folk song. And so I was considering for a long time doing it that way because I also love like Appalachian folk songs. And my family is, like from the Appalachian Mountains. And, my ancestry goes back to England and Ireland where, this folk songs are rich and beautiful as well. So I was like, this will be so cool. And so I was thinking like maybe Wayfaring Stranger or something like that could be the counter melody. And I was really heavily considering that for like months. So whenever I get a commission, now that I'm known as a composer, which still is crazy to me, I'm booking like a year in advance. So I have commissions that are 2026, but I'm already thinking about them. So in this case, I was thinking about this commission for a year. For a year, I was like, what is my inspiration? What is it I want to say? What do I think these women need to hear and need to sing? And so for a while, it was just going to be like celebrating this Americana. And then and then the election happened, and then things started shifting. And then there were all these challenges to women's right to control their own bodies, particularly in the state of Texas where your choir is. And that's scary. I mean, I know there's a woman from Texas who died in childbirth because she went septic, and they were scared, I think, to perform any procedure that could be viewed as an abortion because of the current laws in Texas. And it's a scary time to be a woman of childbearing age, and just to be a woman in general. So once that happened with these laws being rolled back and the reversal of Roe v. Wade, I was just feeling a little scared in my own skin, to be honest. And then I thought about Texas and what it must be like to be in close proximity to this woman who died as a result of these draconian laws. And so I thought, I can't just make it pretty. I can't just say something that's like a lovely sentiment. And then at the same time, I had just come off of commission after commission after commission where they specifically said, we want something lyrical and pretty. And so I was kind of like a little burnt out on lyrical and pretty. Not that it was just that I'd written back to back to back to back to back so many. And so I was kind of yearning for change myself.
Yeah.
And with the desire to say something important and representative of women, and with the Americana theme, and with the desire to write something that was a little more like not pretty and lyrical and in a major key, that's really how the piece happened. So it was really a combination of things. But in general, I brainstormed for months and try to let inspiration come to me naturally rather than force it, because I find when I force inspiration, it's never as good. And so it's always lovely when somebody reaches out to me with plenty of time, because then I can really consider um, what needs to be said. And I almost, this is going to sound cuckoo, but I almost like try to channel like, what is it the choir needs? Like, what is it I need to say? And just like be meditative about it. So around January, I started shifting in my thoughts about what I should say. And then by February, I was like, yeah, I can't say what I thought I was going to say because I was going to make it pretty and lyrical. And I was like, no, I'm not feeling that anymore. And by March, I was like, definitely not feeling that anymore. And so by March, I was like, I really need to start putting like notes like in the computer. And I'm not one who uses like pencil and paper. I'm always on the computer because my fingers type so much faster that way. But I do write my own lyrics. And so the lovely thing about that is lyrics that I write are always going to feel genuine and feel visceral and real to me and honest. And so I know composers who use other lyricists and other poetry. And for them, sometimes it's challenging because maybe a lyric doesn't fit the rhythm of what you want to say musically, or maybe it just doesn't feel true to you as a person. And in my case, I'm like, it's all me. So, so the lyrics come first, and then the music comes. And once the music comes, often it's interesting. I'll go back and change lyrics because the music has then influenced me. So it's a back and forth process. But in general, it usually is a month. Like once I decide what I'm writing, it takes a month of like full-time work to generate what is the final piece. In
Yeah.
this case, we are here.
Excellent. Wow. And I'm curious too, we're coming up on the 250th anniversary of the United States next year. Um, and it's hard not to think about, this song in the context of that, the weight of that history,
Yeah.
especially now where a lot of people are wondering, um, you know, are things going to change so drastically? Do you have any thoughts on that?
So in thinking about, America and where we are as a country, I couldn't help but think of the Statue of Liberty and the inscription at the bottom that says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore." And it's a sentiment that I think they felt was very timely when it was first inscribed, but now it speaks for us today. Like there's a man who now is being imprisoned in El Salvador who, committed no crime. And the fact that we can't bring him home is really concerning to me. So there are a lot of things I think that America, we keep reinventing ourselves and we keep trying to improve on this idea of freedom and power being in the hands of the people that our founders first came up with. And I think we keep trying to create a more perfect union that's by no means perfect. And yeah, it's a scary time for me, and I think a lot of Americans are feeling challenged by um, the power being in the hands of people who maybe don't have our best interests at heart. Especially if you're a woman, we can feel that way. And I do feel that way. So, some of the lyrics I think reflect that too. We talked about verse one, but verse two is I'm aching for mercy, mercy from those who who hold our lives in their hands. And so I think it's this feeling of powerlessness at the beginning that I wanted to evoke. And so the beginning of the piece is like, yeah, it's a cappella. So there's no piano in the beginning. And it was risky for me because I've never done a piece where it was just like started a cappella and started like minor and intense and then shifted to piano and djembe and stomps and like empowering and strong. So, excuse me. So
Mhm.
this is a unique departure for me, but one that I'm really proud of. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, going back to, power among the masses, we are here. We are here. We're not going to be silent, pushed aside. So
Right.
it hopefully goes back to the roots of some of what most of us want. So,
Right, exactly. And I hope that's what I did is to say a message that's being felt by many women in Texas and all over our country right now. And for that matter, all over the world, because women
mhm.
always have had to fight for our status as citizens, no matter what country, right? So for me, being able to represent women and write a piece that's SSAA, so it's specifically for treble voices, is a real honor for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So switching gears a little bit, can you talk about, one of the things that's really important to our chorus is that singing together, and I think there are actually studies that show this, really builds. It does release endorphins, but it also really builds a sense of community and the sense of being part of something bigger and important. And it it makes me very happy personally. I think it's why so many people are drawn to singing.
Yes.
Um, can you talk a little bit about you know, your thoughts on the role of group singing, just either for personal well-being or that community cohesion?
I feel like choir is one of the most beautiful inventions in the world. Music is, my love, of course. And I've loved music since I can remember. But this idea of bringing a bunch of people together to create sounds that harmonize. And we make each other better by creating together and by making these sounds together is such a brilliant and emotional and connecting invention, right? Like, I wonder who first came up with this. I want to hug them. Like, who came up with this idea of singing not only together, but singing in a way where you're supporting each other's sounds and trying to blend and trying to create oneness out of all of these different parts? To me, is really a magical thing. And I can't think of anything better um, as far as creating music, like to work with a soloist is really cool. To play by yourself or sing by yourself is really cool. But to collaborate with others and make something better than you could make by yourself is a really amazing thing. And it's something I continue to be grateful for.
Yeah. Curious to know your thoughts too. I know there's a lot of worry right now about funding for a lot of things, but also, especially for the arts and then fair payment and recognition for artists, especially as we see the rise of AI. And about a decline in creativity because of the role tech plays in our lives. And I'm saying this as the parent of a teenager too, so
Yeah,
I
right.
have that angle on my mind. But what would you tell up and coming musicians and composers in light of this environment? Do you have any advice that you would give?
Yeah, I do. And I think it's partly because I'm an optimist that I'm going to say this. I think that AI doesn't have to be scary. Yeah, we should be concerned and always, monitor and place limits on things that can get out of hand. But in the case of AI, I'm not really worried. And here's why, because I have a funny story. So whenever I get stuck, like lyrically, I'll go to AI and I'll just type in like, hey, give me a bunch of words for this thought or this concept, just like I use a thesaurus for the same thing, or I use a rhyming
Right.
dictionary for the same reason. Um, but every time I say to AI, like, oh, here are the lyrics I have so far, like, what would you say next? It's never any good.
Good.
Always like it's always like it gives me something enough to get my motor going again. So I call it's like a Roomba kicker. It's like if your Roomba, I don't have a
I love
Roomba,
that.
I'm not really. But if your Roomba gets stuck and you like go over and kick it and like it starts going again. So sometimes as a composer or a lyricist, I'll get stuck. And it's just because I maybe need input from another source. And that could be a human source, but it could be AI. And whenever I read like what AI has generated, I'm like, ooh, no, I can do better. And then like it's my Roomba kicker, and then I'm off to go again.
Right. Sometimes seeing what you don't want then helps you
Right.
refine, oh, this is what I do
Exactly.
want.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So and honestly, I have gotten a few ideas from AI where I'm like, ooh, that makes me think of this, right? But never like I want to take it verbatim and just use it. Because it's just never that good. And I think that's a good thing for us. Like
Right.
that's a good thing that being human and drawing from human experience is always going to be better and more real for us because we are human. Now, maybe if there was an AI robot that read those AI generated lyrics, they'd be like, that is great. I love those lyrics. You know what I mean? But as a human, I'm like, no, it's just not as good. I think I can do better. And that's not an arrogant statement because I am harder on myself than anyone. And I'm often plagued with imposter syndrome. But I do know that I'm better than AI. It doesn't feel, and I perform and make music to feel something. And so I think that those of us who share that sentiment will continue supporting the arts and continuing to attend concerts, which I do regularly. Will continue to create art for others, which I also do on a daily basis. I can't even take a day off. Like I try to take a day off, and I'm like, no, I need to write this down before I forget. So, art is what fuels me, and it's my livelihood. And I am grateful to SoCo Women's Chorus for supporting me as an artist, so I can continue to do what it is that I do.
Well, someone who I admire here in this community once said it it's really important to support artists while they're alive. There's so many artists who are sadly only appreciated posthumously.
Right.
So,
And it is and I do not take that for granted, not for 1 second, that I'm able to make a living almost full time as a composer. Um, and I pinch myself regularly, like, ouch. Like that seems crazy to me. But I think it's partly too because I'm willing to be honest and say what I really think and feel. And part of that comes with age. I think if I had discovered composing as a young woman, that I would not have had this success because I didn't feel comfortable in my skin yet. And I didn't have the guts to say what I'm saying today, which is like part of your piece says, no matter who we love, nor the color of our skin, no matter what we believe, we all deserve to breathe again. And it's this sentiment that no matter where we come from, we deserve to be heard. And we're here and we're not going to be quiet. And it goes back to what we said earlier in the interview. So I'm now to the point where I'm willing to say, like, yeah, I believe this. And even though not everyone agrees with me, somebody agrees with me and somebody will want to sing that because in this we have sisterhood, right? And we connect. And so, yeah, it's a real privilege to be able to hear my own work in the voices of the SoCo Women's Choir. I can't wait to hear it. In fact, I'm debating like, can I afford to fly out? Love to be there for the premiere. It would be, gosh, I know how good your choir is. And I just, when I'm there for a premiere with a choir that good, I feel like I'm levitating. Like it feels surreal
Oh.
and also like out of body. Like, oh my God, they're singing what I only imagined in my brain. It's crazy.
Oh, wow. I mean, that must be amazing to hear something that came from you, your thoughts, your
It,
ideas, and then it's put out there by almost 100 voices, which
can
is,
you can you imagine this and think about it? Because if you're a visual artist, for example, you paint and then it just goes on a wall, right? Or it's a sculpture and it's like there. But it's not like other people are helping to create your work.
oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this idea that you come up with it, but then it doesn't exist unless it's in the voices and in the bodies of
Mm,
somebody else is really powerful. And it's
wow.
the coolest thing about being a choral composer is that my work only exists because people are willing to sing it and conduct it. Part of my research, whenever somebody hires me to do a commission,
Mm,
is I research the organization. So I go on YouTube and I listen and I look at their website and read, like, what is their mission statement? What are they all about? What do the people look like who are in the choir? Like, who do they represent? Are they old? Are they young? Are they a mixture? Um, so I once wrote a piece for Vox, and it's a women's choir in LA.
oh,
And I'm not a California girl, but I've been there. I love it. And theirs is like when I become an old woman, I'm gonna like do what I want and be sassy and dance the tango and not care if anybody's watching. And so, yeah, this this idea that I get to know, like they're an ensemble that's also like SoCo, like not afraid to embrace like their womanhood and say like we're here and like we believe this. And so, yeah, I always try to research and study and get to know the choir before I start writing for them. And so that's what I did for SoCo. Just, read what you're about, who you're made of, where are you from? Where do you live? What is it like where you live? So, yeah, that's all part of the process.
oh. I would love to talk. I mean, you already touched on this, and this line had been stuck in my head since I started practicing, mercy from those, because so often when you start to talk about having mercy, it's like I am giving mercy. It's mercy
Right.
for others. And that I really like that turn of phrase, mercy from those who hold our lives in their hands. Um, and then the later piece, we all deserve to breathe, because that is imbued with so much meaning, I think, that works on so many levels. Um, so I don't know if you have any additional thoughts on what we've already said on the choice of those words, but I think they just work so well.
Yeah, the start of the piece is really from a position of weakness and admitting that you feel powerless in the face of oppression, right? It's that feeling of like, and I've been feeling this every day as I read the news and as I read what's happening to our fellow Americans. I keep thinking, like, what can I do? I'm one person. And I don't even know where to begin because it's so overwhelming. And I'm tired of worrying about it. Like, I'm tired of worrying about my own safety as a woman, as a member of the LGBTQ community. I'm worried about my brothers and sisters not being safe. And so that fatigue, that being tired, tired of yearning for justice, in the opening of the piece, I actually found myself depressed and anxious early in the year, like when it was January and it was like
Oh,
mostly dark
same.
outside. And
Oh,
yeah,
it's the
it was
worst.
not just, physically like it was dark and all this changeover in an administration and all the change that comes with that, but being fearful of what's to come and feeling powerless. And then in the second verse, just aching for mercy, like aching for mercy for others, but also mercy from those who are in power and can very easily make our lives better or make our lives more difficult. Um, and wondering how can you be in a position of power, whether it's like billionaires who hold just they have all this money, just in a moment they could rid us of world hunger with just a signing of a check. They could make so many people not fear anymore that they would be hungry tomorrow. Um, it strikes me as like strange. Like, how could you not just do that? If you have the power to do that, how could you not just make that decision to make millions of lives better? It bewilders me. And then in the next part, I said, can't they see the pain that they're inflicting? How can they not care? Like that just is strange to me. Can't they hear anyone but themselves? Like it's this echo chamber of like, oh, I'm powerful. Oh, I have money. I'm going to keep enriching myself and do for those like me rather than help people who are helpless. I don't understand that. And so the message was like, people beware, like, watch out, like, be careful, because there are people who don't care about you or your lives. And we need to protect ourselves and each other. And so when it repeats that verse, it's like, can't they see the pain they inflict? How can they not care? Can't they hear anyone but themselves? And it was sisters beware, because it's not just people, it's I gave myself the chills. It's like, sisters, we've got to watch out for each other because we're uniquely challenged in these times. And then that led me to think like, hold on a second. It's not just our psyches and our pocketbooks that are in danger. It's our physical bodies if we're women. And so that led me to say like, it's my body. Like I should get to decide what happens with my own physical body. This should not be a radical idea. Like I think if
Right.
you asked any man, and I
Right.
love men, by the way. I have men that I am super close to. I have men that are not family that I call brother and that I care about very deeply. But I think if I asked them, should anybody else get to decide what happens with your body, they would be like, that's insane. Like, why would anybody else decide what happens to my body? But as women, we're always thinking of like, no, I have to protect that it's my physical body, not yours, and that I'm going to stand up for it and the bodies of my sisters and say, like, it's not right for others to get to decide. And so then I said, hear our voices growing louder. Like, see us stand up and fight for what we believe and fight for each other and fight for the ability to say, like, we should have a right to stand up and not have our rights taken away by somebody who is outside of us. So yeah, in the end of the song, it gets, like more and more intense. And then the piano comes in and the drums and we're stomping and we're saying like, let them hear our voices strong, that we'll persevere and we're not going to back down. We're here and we're going to keep fighting for our rights and the rights of others that we care about.
I love that moment too when it turns like that and it's that powerful, like we're empowering ourselves. And it
Yeah.
feels like I just have this almost like this like it's almost like a very dramatic Broadway kind of vision of like
Oh, I
people
love
coming
Broadway.
together.
Yay. Like, can you hear the people sing, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And it's that
Right.
very like that strength in numbers that we're going to
Yeah.
stand together.
To have this, starting out like we're oppressed and we're scared, and move into like, but wait a minute, we deserve better and we're going to stand up for what's right. And the end, it says, we're not going to back down. We're here and we're going to fight for each other. And I don't mean physically fight. Like, I don't believe in violence. I believe in protesting and using your voice to affect change. And I hope that others, and many others in power will join us to say, like, we need to fight for the little people. And that includes women, that includes children. And not to say that we're little, but often we find ourselves stripped of our rights when we shouldn't be.
Right.
And so I hope that this piece inspires not just women to fight for each other and our rights, but also to stand up for the little guy, like to stand up for somebody who doesn't have power, and to stand up for children and people of color, people who find themselves oppressed in this moment. I'm hoping this song is like an anthem for them to to hold strong and to know that there are people out there like us fighting for them. Such an honor to be able to write for such an amazing choir as SoCo Women's Chorus, and to have my work conducted by Lisa Holt. And your accompanist, I've heard, is also amazing. So I was able to write a little more difficult of a piano part. But it's a true honor to compose for you all. And I cannot wait to hear it.